it's positive on a Friday the 13th. You know that somebody at your level does actually have access. So I think you said it. You know, where does the security strategy for the organisation come from?
Well, it comes out of group role. So my role that I hold as the head of, Group Protective Security, or my role is actually called Group Manager Protective Security. So it pretty much comes off my desk, but it's overseen by a cohort that's on the Protective Security Committee, and that cohort is of a number of heads of that just sit below the C-suite.
Sounds very much like Thales has the same sort of thing, but that's more a regulatory and compliance thing because of the equipment they make for the Australian government. It's So what responsibilities So is it just protective security? Some organisation have crisis management and business continuity, incident management. What does your department? What does that cover?
Look, it's two hats. I'll just park the group protective security function. Is, as I said before, is about protection of people, assets, and operations.
Yep.
And so, and I guess to some extent, because I was the head of group business continuity for one of Australia's big four, they've thrown business continuity over to me as well this year. But that's very much just for the finance business unit, so It's not the group. It's a bespoke model of business continuity, and so I actually wrote an exercise and conducted a desktop exercise only 2 weeks ago for the finance business unit. So there's an element of that in there. I'm now sitting on some crisis management structures, but I'm not responsible for crisis management as such. And I'm more recently just been added as the backup. The person the head of resilience, there's a resilience function that sits as a peer. In risk, they are the representative on SIAC for the energy sector, your typical TISN. So I've just been nominated to be the alternate for the TISN for our organisation sitting into the energy sector as well. So I would say it's a protective security, some business continuity management for specific business unit, crisis management as an SME and specific to the business unit, but not an overarching, all-encompassing resilience role, including physical, logical, natural disaster, crisis, etc. It's a bit of a small model. On the network facility side of things, I'm very much about making sure that things don't fall over and things are broken. So that doesn't necessarily have the group protective. What I will say is this organisation is there's a close link between managing those network facilities and managing protective security. So, if we build a fence, one might argue that fence is network facilities, but I'd also argue that it's providing a security function. So they're intertwining with the property element there.
And health and safety, because stopping the general public from zapping themselves.
Yep.
So if you've got a good network, if you've got, is there an informal or formal? Because you're a network, you're a distribution organisation. You don't generate power, do you?
No. So if you look at the line of power generation, power transmission, power distribution, and then retail, the bill that gets put in your letterbox. We're sitting here at the distribution, which is the poles and the wires.
Yep.
And if I think I'm going to press what your next question is there's a monopoly. So in Victoria, the electrical distribution industries is a carve-up of the old State Electricity Commission.
Okay.
So, quick snapshot. Powercore, the western part of the state, running from Geelong all the way out to Warrnambool and up to Mildura and across to Echuca. City Power, Central Business District. United Energy, the Mornington Peninsula, they're my patch.
Right.
If you go to AusNet is East Gippsland, all the way out through to Mallacoota, and South Gippsland and so forth. Then if you go to Gemina has a wedge that runs up through the north of the city, up towards sort of Albury and that patch. So they're a monopoly. They're a geographical monopoly, and some of them, like AusNet, will have the high transmission wide as well as the distribution. But we catch up. We actually catch up once a month. My equivalents at Gemina, my equivalent at AusNet, we catch up and do some. We've got a smaller model of trusted information sharing within the big context.
That's good to hear. Yeah, because you need that. Because no man's an island, or some people do think that. So the converged model. What's your thoughts on the converged model? IT, security, cyber security, and the physical side. The different. Yeah, I want your views because there's so many different variables. Horses for courses. Some organisations think it's good. Some organisations don't. Your thoughts?
The current stocking legislation change is actually looking at that convergence model to some extent. When you think that if you reduce or you control or you manage your physical security to your assets, then you are going to impact on the ability to get that logical access to assets and or information systems. So I think it can operate if a chief security officer has got a very good grounding in cyber security, and that includes understanding the ISO requirements around, I think it's 27,000. If they understand, the way that security operations centres are set up, if they have a good understanding and a background of knowledge in, everything from your normal threat vectors and your operandis of phishing all the way to malicious software, etc. If they've got a good understanding of that, and they've got a good understanding of what my predominant area is, which is, obviously physical, electronic security, threat vectors, etc. So the equivalent in that physical space, I think, can be a convergence where the chief security officer can hold both portfolios under their charter. And I think a general manager that's come up through either one of those streams that at least could manage them quite easily. It's almost like that, resilience function, if you like, for want of a better term. That's it in an organisation. Having said that, on my protective security committee, for example, is the cyber security lead. So I won't necessarily go to the IT leadership forums, but I invite the IT cyber guys to my leadership forums. And I think that there is a convergence, because ultimately if I'm reporting up that you can't get through the gate and you can't get through the fence, and I know who, when and why somebody went into a facility, then that logically impacts on, who might have got access into a control room and who had access to the SCADA network and sorts of things. So I guess it's a long answer to a short question, Steve, but I think that there needs to be increasing convergence, but there needs to be a clear understanding of what is independent and what is interdependent.
That short questions are always going to have long answers, because there's so many variables, depending on the industry as well. It's
exactly.
Challenge. Leadership. How do you describe your leadership style, and how has that evolved?
I think I'd describe mine as a situational leadership style. When there's time and space to be able to be collegiate and go out for opinions and ideas and inputs to a problem, I'll go out and get that. And your traditional styles of democratic, if you like to call it, get input from everyone. Yes, but there's no doubt that if I see that something needs some quick decisioning and it needs some quick direction, and I'm more than happy to adopt that directive style and be a little bit more autocratic. This is mixed decision, and this is what mixed decision is going to be. Now go away and execute it. So I think I would describe it as a situational leadership style, and I think it's absolutely necessary to have that style in this organisation. What I will say is interesting, on the group security side of things, I tend to probably micromanage one of my new subordinates because I'm trying to do